Hey, we're live. All right, we're going to wait a minute before we start so that people can spool up here. For those of you who have come to this show, and I'm sure we're going to get more than 50 people this time, this is going to be interesting. This is your alert. I know my email just went out to my subscribers. There we go. It jumped just 100 people. But what I want you to do is if you're just logging in, go to the bottom. You'll see where all those little hearts are floating up there. If you press on that, that sets the algorithm to show that something's happening and you need to pay attention. And on the other hand, if you go to the top to that little gray box that says Black Man Spy, Blundell Jacob Karsbo, if you click on that, up will pop this box from the bottom, and you can punch subscribe to everyone that's on this chat right now. So somebody say, Ann Crocker says, I've been waiting for this. From time to time, I'm going to be going into the comments. I'm going to be watching the comments while we talk, and if I see good questions, we'll come up there. But for the most part, we're going to be discussing this amongst our two panelists. And so we have about 400. We'll get to about 500 here. We'll hit 1,000 in a short bit of time. But while everyone is completely focused on Venezuela, I was focused on Venezuela. You saw my recent tweets and my recent post, and that was constantly updated on the attack in Venezuela. I've been doing nonstop news media. I've done 3 episodes of the Trump Report for the Times of London, right? I mean, they are just like every day. It's the Trump Report on Venezuela. But as you know, if you've been following my Substack, last year I know it was subscribers only because we really wanted to do something special. We discussed Greenland several times, no less than 8 different reports. And the reason that I did that was I could clearly see that Greenland last year was not a joke. This was going to be a serious foreign policy challenge that Trump was setting up with. And Miles Taylor, the National Security Advisor on the Department of Homeland Security staff, said that Trump brought this up in 2019 seriously. And he said at the time he wanted to exchange Greenland, I'm not joking, for Puerto Rico, because he said Puerto Rico was dirty and it had all those people in it, American citizens.
He said that?
And he absolutely said that. Miles Taylor's podcast has that where he talks about Greenland. So this entire discussion about Greenland, the reason that I'm bringing it up is when the Maduro raid was finished, within the hours of the Maduro raid, you could see that the Trump guys were absolutely high. They were high on the success of that mission. These guys did not know that we were capable of this level of precision. Also, this mission had been going for now, by their own admission, 5 months. They were training for the capture of Maduro, which means that they had their spies on the inside, most likely the Minister of Defense and the Minister of the Interior, because none of the exterior guards got killed. None of the cops that would be patrolling the streets got killed. So that being said, within hours of them, they were immediately putting out cartoons of Donald Trump with one foot on Canada, the other foot on South America, and with a big stick written the Don Roe Doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
And, the reason I went to Greenland last year to do an in-depth military assessment, that's what I was really doing. I mean, I didn't get to meet all the politicians that I wanted to meet. I met Jacob in Copenhagen. But, and more importantly, I got to hang out with Orla Jolson, who is, without a doubt, the biggest social media person in Greenland, other than the prime minister and the head speaker of the opposition party, of the political party there. He is the biggest entity out there. And he now routinely gets, like 10,000, 20,000 likes on something. look, for a country that's 50,000 people, that's an enormous amount. But that being said, it was very clear to me Greenland was on the menu last year through the efforts of myself, Orla, and Jacob. We thought we had put a knife in this. And the reason that I thought that was when I went on the Lippert Report, which is their version of 60 Minutes. It's like the biggest political talk show there. I went in guns a-blazing, and I said, hey, you guys had better take this seriously. I mean, serious. You don't think it's going to happen, but wait till the first Danish-America war that you lose in the first 5 minutes because the special operations team has flown into Nuuk, has seized the airport, and the first images you would be getting back are the 40 cops from Copenhagen with their hands above their heads coming out of the police station, and the Greenlandic flag being brought down from that 30-meter pole, which is in the middle of Old Town, and the American flag being raised. I said, your government will collapse within that hour, right? And you will have surrendered a territory that you have been on for 5, 6 centuries. I said, so give them what they want. Give J.D. Vance what they want. They said the Danes are not defending Greenland. Okay, show them a defense. Station F-16s in Kajluswak. Boom! 1 month later, they stationed F-16s in Kajluswak. I said, send the special forces there to run their mountain training center with the French full time. Boom! The special forces show up there. I said, send a Marine battalion to Greenland, which is like 600 guys. They opted for sending a light infantry company, which is about 200 guys, would you say? I don't know how many guys were there. And they're putting them in Nuuk so that there won't be, when you come landing at that airport, there's going to be people there with a shitload of guns who can now battle you for control of that airport. I said, you have 3 fisheries patrol frigates or corvettes, which have guns, awesome, and helicopters, awesome. But you need a multi-dimensional anti-submarine warfare, anti-surface ship warfare. Boom! A frigate shows up in that month that's now stationed there to provide air defense, anti-submarines. So I thought the Americans now will have to understand there's no, we're just going to come in the middle of the night and do this Maduro shit, which you can't do because that requires helicopters and the ships that you would use, which would be your modified special operations merchant ships. We can track those. Even when you go off, believe me, we can see you from space, especially if you got a shitload of helicopters on there, right? And you're going to have American officers who are going to go, hello, Denmark? Are you aware you're about to get invaded? And I said on the Lippert report, they said, well, how much warning would we get? I said, about 8 hours. You get about 8 hours before this airliner comes up into your airspace, and at 2, and you're going to write it off. 2 a.m, they will, a civil airliner, unregistered, will declare an emergency, land at Nuuk Airport without any permission, even though the airport's closed on night vision, and out will come 100 fucking Rangers whose job is airport seizure, right? Combat controllers, and then there will be a conga line of C-17s flying in, 10th Mountain Infantry, Polar Infantry, and all these guys. And the reason they won't fly to Patufic Space Base is because from Nuuk to Patufic is 3,000 kilometers. It is not close. The country's fucking huge. It's 1,000 miles. Over a 1 mile deep sheet of solid ice with no people or settlements along it outside, dotted on the coast. You can't get there. Go ahead, fly 1,000 troops into Patufic. Here's the kicker. Here's one thing I learned in Greenland that I really enjoyed. The guy who runs the generator and life support at Patufic is a Danish guy named Carl.
Yeah.
Carl with a K. Carl with a K.
Carl doesn't show up to work. That system goes down. Food services, logistics are all provided by people from the village of Patufik.
Yeah.
Right there. They don't come to work. Right? The place, you're going to have to stir your fucking self. Here's another thing. The temperatures up there are like where I was in Laurentians, right? Minus 25 to minus 40 all the time, except in summer when it gets up to where it gets up to like 8 or 9 or 10 degrees Celsius, warm, right? Or minus 17 Fahrenheit for you guys. So, and then if you want to fly to invade Nook from that base, it's 1,000 miles of flying over this. And don't fuck up, because if you crash or you have to emergency land, okay, there's only one place you can land between Patufik and Nook, and that's Kajlushwak, where the U.S. Air National Guard, flying out of Schenectady, very close to where I am, has planes with skis. But that's also where the Danish F-16s are now, right? This is where your fighter interceptors are. So the Danes could make quite a show for it. And believe me, they're not going to be landing at Ilulissat. The new runway's not finished. Sisimiut, that fucking runway's the size of a postage stamp. Same thing with Alasat and all these other little villages. You ain't landing there, right? In a C-17 or even a C-130, loaded down with troops, and here's another kicker. To get to Patufik, you got to fly through Canadian airspace. Right? I mean, so if the Canadians get wind of this, they could deny you airspace.
Yeah.
So all of this being said, if you go to my Substack, go in there. I think some of them are subscriber only because my subscribers paid a lot of money. They donated money. Greenland's an insanely expensive place. Other than basic foodstuffs, housing, there's no such thing as an Airbnb in that country, right? Hotel is the size of a postage stamp. I went back to look at the rooms at the Hans Egde and the Soma. The one that I stayed at the Soma Hotel, which was full of, there's this whole crew of ski Nazis that comes to Greenland in winter. And all they do is take charter boats up the coast and they go to the rawest skiing. They hella ski from this place, right? And they take up all the hotels. They're like sleeping in the lounges and stuff. But the Hans Egde, the room I had was 14 square meters, right? That's like 67 square feet. It was a planked bed, a table, and the toilet was down the hallway. That was $200 a night. Okay, that was money. So did I mention that was the cheapest place in Nook? Then I stayed at the Hans Egde, which has all the charm of Motel 6, right? Or an F1, right? In Europe. And that was $350 for a standard room. But there is a bar on the roof and there is a restaurant. And the bar is worth going to. But my point is this. I went there because U.S. intelligence had been ordered to ramp up their collection against Greenland. And I went and I was like, this is hilarious. Here's where the CIA, and I told them, I think I said this on air, the CIA will station themselves in Iceland in a 5-star luxury spa, right? And they will find who is the juniorest guy who just came out of Brigham Young. He just went to the farm for basic clandestine service school. We're going to take that guy. That guy is going to fly from Keflavik to Nook in winter, and he's going to stay at the Hans Egde, right? Because there's no assets there. You cannot rent an apartment there. You can't. Everyone knows everybody. everybody, right? Within 24 hours, everybody knew I was the old American spy that was there to help, right? And they come up to me, high-five me on the streets and shit. So even the Filipino cooks at one of the great cafes that they had there were all like, "Oh, Mr. Malcolm," after a day. So you can't go into that country. There is no
Place to
actor you
hide.
can develop. You can maybe there's three. I think there's 2 or 3 Greenlanders that are pro-Trump. And Jacob, you can talk about this guy. I can't remember his name, but
The bricklayer.
yeah, the bricklayer. This guy's considered. He calls himself the Trump of Greenland, and he's a mason. He's a basic mason. He doesn't even do concrete. He just does brickwork, and not on a large scale. I mean, like build a 3-foot, 1 meter by 2 meter wall. That's his speed. And now he is routinely flown to Mar-a-Lago. He's routinely flown to Mar-a-Lago.
No way.
And when they have all these right-wing events in Europe, he is considered part of that group.
Yeah.
Corporations fly him to these events. Last one was Romania, right? The Romanian elections.
Yeah.
And
I think that was back in May, wasn't it? Or June.
Yeah.
May or
He's
June.
part of the Trump global support diaspora. And if they ever seize the country, right, the way that I describe it, that guy will be appointed prime minister. Or there's a member of parliament who's also sort of pro-Trumpy there. And one of these 2 guys will be appointed prime minister after, as I said on Danish television, after they arrest your prime minister and bring him out in fucking handcuffs and go house to house to arrest the parliamentarians. This guy will be the quisling that will bring them around to find them. Because I can show you, Nook is so small, it's this big. You can go to everybody's house in a 15-minute walk. I mean, like, visit everybody's apartment.
What's the population, Malcolm? What's the population of Nuuk?
The population of Nuuk, I want to say it's 7,000 total. Most people live in high rises. There are very few individual houses. The country's population is 50,000 total, and most settlements are just a few hundred people at a pop, right? And that goes up the southeast coast, all the way up the southwest coast until you get to Ilulissat, and then it starts getting adventurous. That's where the icebergs that sank the Titanic came from the Ilulissat ice ford. All this thing it's like 100-kilometer long fjord that's 3 skyscraper stories high, like 1,000 meters high. And all it does is glacially push out icebergs. And then they calve off of the end of this thing and go into the ocean. And let me tell you, brother, I went there at the end of the winter season, and I've been through some adventurous terrain, and in my Navy career, I thought I'd been through some big seas. Fuck up big seas. Hit icebergs for 12 hours nonstop while you're sleeping. Just bump, bump, bump. You're like, one of these is coming through the wall. And I'm like, there's no way to invade this place before the ice melt happens, because you think pilots are going to come on board to help you enter the harbor? Fuck you. They'll be up there giving you the big arm. And you will have to navigate your way through an ice fjord that sank the Titanic, right? And just even to get into Nuuk, which is a pretty big harbor. So the country's small. Here's another interesting statistic I like to tell to my American friends. Greenland has 50,000 people and 35,000 guns, long rifles that are designed to shoot 1,000-pound caribou and 1.5-ton muskox. Okay? Everyone's got a 30-06 or a higher caliber weapon in their house that's hot. I mean, I went to visit a couple of his friends. I was like, hey, let me see your rifle. Whoa, that's in condition 1. You know, he's got it loaded, wrapped in the chamber,
There you go.
safety off. I'm like, whoa, I saved so many weapons, you know? And my friend Orla and I went plunking one day. We didn't go shooting because he had a bad optic on the rifle that he had. But off of Facebook, you can buy I bought a 6.5 Creedmoor sniper rifle, Steyr Mannlicher, with a full silencer, a full suppressor on it, right? Full suppressor on it. So $650. That's 500 euros. Right? And they sell each other weapons left and right. You just go over to their house and you go, here's my money. And they go, okay. Right? And because the Inuits' way of life is to eat, first off, muskox is fucking delicious.
Yeah.
Caribou is equally yummy. Blubber is interesting. But you can watch me on my channel eat blubber if you go to my Substack. But you got to put like soy sauce on it. But all of this is their way of life is very peaceful. They are the most peaceful people in there. There is no history of violence between tribes. None.
No.
Zero between villages. No history of violence. But this is a time where somebody would come in and then seize them. And of course, you know, I had these idiot Americans who are like, why would they bring ICE agents? Why would they bring Border Patrol? It's because you would be declaring the place America the next day. So you need to have Customs and Border Protection at the airport. You would need to have Immigration and Customs Enforcement because they said the first thing that they would do is they would kick out any white Danes with a Danish passport. Right? Well, that could be a lot of people. I've been to that airport, just going back to Copenhagen, the flights are always full. So you could be talking several thousand Danes, right? White Danes who the Americans would force out at gunpoint. So don't tell me nobody will get on that rifle somewhere. Apartment complexes everywhere, right?
Yeah.
It could be an entertaining environment. So all of that being said, that's what I went to Greenland for last year. I spent almost a month between Denmark and Greenland, and now may have to go back to do part 2 of this because it's winter, the main airport that they would want to take is in the south, where I didn't go in part 1, and that airport is called Narsarsuaq. And it's in the south, and it was the largest U.S. base, the first U.S. base you would get to when B-17s would fly up to Greenland. They would land at that base. That base is still littered with debris, rusted out debris from World War II and the Cold War, right? You can go off the end of the runway. There's all the remnants of that base there. And that would be the first place they would have to seize because it would get pretty salty if you went up to Kajlushwak and they got F-16s pulling emergency scrambles out of there, right? So all of this, no passports in Greenland. No, they have passports in Greenland. They got passports. There's Danish passports. So somebody says, I can remember the name of these weird-ass airstrips. Yeah, because you know why I remember them? It's the only way to get around. If you're not on a fucking ferry, ferries are closed for winter. Yeah. First ferry will not move one day in March. The 24th of March is the first ferry, and then that will do one southern trip north to south from Nuuk. It will not go to the north up to any of the big settlements in the Arctic Circle. Then the next one goes 2 weeks later. It's that same ferry going back north. So wherever you go in the south, you're there for 2 weeks. Right? Yeah. But to get around any other way, you have to fly. And flying is insanely expensive there. It's $1,000 a leg up to Ilulissat and then back to Nuuk. One leg, 1,000, 1,000 US dollars, right? That's like 700 euros. So you talking money, but it's the only way to get around. By the way, did I mention there are no roads in Greenland outside of the little settlements? The settlements have interior roads, but there is no road from Nuuk up to Asaliat or up to Sisimiut. No roads. So if you ain't got a boat, you ain't got a fucking subarctic dog sled, because dog sleds from the Arctic are not allowed down into the south, right? And you know, in the summer, you could actually hike from Kajlushwak in. But if you ain't got an airplane, you ain't going nowhere. And did I mention it's really bad for helicopters in winter? So if it takes an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half to fly north and south, did I mention this is just the tiny southern legs of the country? This isn't the length of the country. Length of the country is 6 hours over a 1 mile or 2.5 kilometer ice sheet with nothing on it. You go down there, you're staying there. They're going to find you in the end of the next ice age. So, you know, when global warming completes its job. Here's a good example of how intense the weather is. A P-38 Lightning aircraft crash landed in 1945 on the southern tip of Greenland. Lots of records, photographs of it where it went down, everything, lat long. It was seen for years by aircraft flying over it. But when they went to go recover it in 2020 or something, it was 39 feet under the ice. 12 meters under the ice. That's how much fucking snow accumulated over the land in 70 years. So if you get lost and you get frozen in the camp, they can find your ass at 39 meters, at 39 feet. I mean, it is just insane, the intensity of the snow drifting, the weather. This reminds me of the Vietnam War. It reminds me of something I read in a famous book called Going After Cacciato. The North Vietnamese won't defeat you. The land will defeat you. That is the definition of Greenland.
Yeah. And
all right, you're going to have to bring in everybody from Alaska. Go ahead.
Remember, just 2 days ago, the U.S. Commander-in-Chief made fun of the Danish dog sleigh patrols.
Yeah. He said you guys fortified your Greenland with one extra dog sled.
Because the stupid idiot doesn't have a clue. He doesn't have a clue what this is about. These are hard-ass guys, and they know their way around.
Well,
even in
the
winter.
Sirius Patrol, right?
Yeah.
They live up there with whatever they can get in resupply on their fucking dog sleds for 6 months at a pop?
Yeah.
And they gotta live. They're on the dog sleds all day, right?
And you know who did that?
Your king did that.
Our king did that.
Why? Your king did that because not only did he do that, but he was also like your king is schooled in the art of espionage, and he's a hard ass as well, right?
Yeah, he's a former SEAL.
Yeah, he's a former SEAL, and then he did the Sirius Patrol, and he did that legitimately. Received no favors. He did it. And
there's no fucking favors to have.
Not there, no.
Grand Nord.
Yeah. Exactly, but there's always this talk of he's royalty. Maybe he didn't do it properly.
Get some dogs.
He did it properly, man.
He did it.
Yeah, and I tell you what. Just yesterday, the king had his New Year's banquet for all the ambassadors.
Oh,
and so all the ambassadors went to the castle. And the king greeted them, etc., etc. The press was there, and the Canadian ambassador made remarks to the press and said it was good to see European unity in face of the threats towards Denmark and Greenland. And guess who walked right behind her was Ken Howery, the little snake that Trump sent to be the ambassador to Copenhagen.
That Praxis prick.
Yeah, the Praxis nation.
Praxis guy?
Yeah. He's like one of the lead investors in Praxis. That's why he got the fucking gig, dude. Like they yanked the other guy out. They're like, we need the Praxis guy to be the fucking ambassador. And he is such a fucking weasel, Malcolm. It is hilarious.
Let me explain this to the audience. Because this is very important.
Yeah.
I constantly get asked, why are they trying to go after Greenland? What is this about? Well, because there is this group of techno bros led by Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, David Sachs, and Elon Musk, amongst others, right? They're also known as the South African PayPal Mafia. And they have this investment. They've had this Robert Heinlein fucking fantasy that they were going to create what they call networked cities, which would be these fantasy cities for incel tech bros. Yeah, net nations. And that they were going to make these utopian, libertarian, right, jerk-off, anarcho-fascist incel villages.
Technate village, yes.
Called that is based on a concept from the 1930s that Elon Musk's grandfather was kicked out of Canada over, why he became a Nazi. Called the Technate of America, in which technology would usurp governments. And it was supposed to go from Venezuela and Colombia all the way up the Caribbean, Central America, Mexico, the United States, Canada, and Greenland. And if you go look it up, TECHNATE, the Technate of America, that is supposed to be this thing. Now, here's the kicker. Their hipster guru philosopher, who I have personally sworn I will slap the ever-living fuck out of if I ever see him on the streets,
Yarvin,
is a guy by the name of Curtis Yarvin. All right, he's some hillbilly anarchist bro who has got all these who went by the name of Mendacious Moldbug or some stupid ass name.
Yeah.
Who I have personally said as an intelligence professional, I consider this guy more dangerous than Osama bin Laden in terms of the ideological buy-in that he's getting. Because the New York Times did a great 45-minute interview about this guy. Go to the New York Times. You can see the 45-minute recorded interview. He does not believe in democracy. He does not believe in America or the Constitution. He believes it's all should be ripped down, tear it all down, and turn it over to the tech bros.
Yep, business,
and
corporate.
These assholes came up with this philosophy called the Praxis cities, right? Which are supposed to be starting the first one. If I'm not mistaken, it's in Honduras. Is it? Honduras, Panama, they're supposed to be completely isolated, Star Trek, the Next Generation fucking villages out there in which everyone has, and it's all networked and your house is all, Alexa and works on, automatic door openers and the computer answers your questions and shit, right? Fucking enterprise on land.
You know what's fucking hilarious about that too? This is the same group of people, same party, same maggots that are like, digital identification is bad for you. 15-minute cities suck. And you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You're describing the amalgamation of all the things that they say that they hate and the deep state's coming for you with.
Yeah. So long story very short, one of the proposals was that one of these technets, a Praxis city, go look up the words Praxis City, Greenland, and here's the phrase that will pop instantly into your head, right? The phrase that will pop into your head is, are you fucking kidding me? Right? Because it's crazy talk. And it shows like on the ice fields of Greenland is this fucking place that looks like Metropolis from the movie in the 1930s, right? That German film. And this is where they want to build cities out of the land. Bitches, have you ever been to Greenland? It's the first question is, you and what 10,000 fucking ships that will have to come from America or the world with $1 trillion of fucking raw materials, with guys with 30-06 rifles picking your ass off one at a time, right? You think you're going to fuck with their caribou population to build this thing. There ain't jack shit you can build it on.
That's what it looks like, Mel. That's what it looks like.
There it is, rising out of the mist. Yeah,
beautiful.
okay. Yeah,
Beautiful.
your dead ass is in the street. Every time one of you incel bitches step out of the street, a polar bear hunting rifle, which is what this is the reason they have 30-06 on the Sirius patrol, right? On that dog sled patrol.
Yeah.
That fucking weapon will kill a polar bear. And when you get into polar bear country, polar bears don't give two fucks about you, right?
No.
They will eat your ass. That's why everyone in Greenland's got a rifle. Muskox, caribou, and polar bears are real. So these hipster incel bros, right, are going to take their futuristic Elon Musk sex robots and move to Greenland. That is what they say. And I'm going to let you guys talk here in a minute. This will be the end of my spiel.
Well done. I got to tell you, before we get into our stuff, I just want to say that was the most enjoyable 38 minutes of my Substack life.
I haven't even started, bitch. Listen, here's the real reason they want Greenland. They intend to build massive city-sized data centers, AI data centers, which require millions of metric tons of fresh water to generate the electricity. And so they would, if any of you are Star Trek The Next Generation fans, what they want to do to Greenland is what the Borg does to planets, right? One day it's like all water and green and clouds and shit. And the next day it's all city lights and no water. That is what their intention is to turn Greenland into this AI industrial powerhouse that will power their technet future. Which, by the way, you got to walk through the door alive when those 30-06 rifles start shooting, right? I want to see how an AI data center does to sustain rifle fire. But, by the way, these guys can kill a muskox at 800 yards without thinking. In winter, in the snow, right?
Yeah.
Because winter's the best time to really hunt for them, because then you can just pull the carcass with a skidoo. In summer, you got to hump it out yourself by light.
You say these things like everybody does them.
They do over there. Oh, you mean us? Yeah, man, I'm telling you. Let me tell you what. But that is what's going on with Greenland. It is a fantasy that everyone must disabuse them of, and they are willing to destroy NATO and start the first NATO-U.S. war. And like I said on the Lippert Report when I was on your TV show, I said, you will have to decide if the first Danish-American war is lost in the first 5 minutes, and you will live in disgrace in Danish history for giving away how many years? 600 years of Danish presence on Greenland without a fight. And then boom, 30 days later, fighter jets and special forces start going to Greenland. For this discussion, which we'll start now, it's clearly not enough. Jacob, what do you say? You're the Danish intelligence expert.
Yeah, I think, the will to assert themselves, the Danes, the Europeans, the Canadians, and do this and make a stand is the crucial thing. And that's why I was asked today, I think it was The Guardian that called me up this morning and asked me, but how many soldiers will it take and so on? And I was saying, well, it depends on the plans. It's about having the firepower in place to try to deter Trump from this insane fantasy and convince him that your first 500 soldiers will get killed.
So, you know what, Jacob, you're absolutely right. You know what they need? They want to show real strength besides sending that. I think the full Marine regiment needs to go there now. That's 1,500 guys. They need to start installing fixed surface-to-air missile batteries around Nuuk. right?
Exactly.
And just
and then
like,
show these idiots that this is not going to be a Venezuela thing.
but you got to tell them, oh, this is for the Russian ships you keep talking about.
Yeah, exactly. All those Russian ships that no one has ever seen.
Russian and Chinese, by the way, they're surrounding Greenland and Canada at the moment.
Guys, full disclosure, there is one Russian ship that is always in the harbor, and it's like this $50 million oligarch's mega yacht that brings people up and down the coast on on those ski Nazi vacations.
Ski Nazi vacations.
They are ski Nazis. These people live in their fucking coveralls. I'm not joking. And they walk around the hotel in their boots.
Yeah.
And then they jump out the front door and they just ski all around the village, all around town. It's freaking crazy. But that ship is locked in the harbor with everybody else right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that one of the, like the 8th richest man in the world owns that yacht.
Yeah, but still not a Russian warship. Sorry, Jacob, go ahead. To your point.
No, but I tell you why I brought up that point about the New Year's banquet yesterday. Because imagine our king with what he has done and the education he has had and the education he has had in Greenland and what he has actually done in Greenland. And then the next day you have to greet a snake like Ken Howery. That's just there and part of this insane enterprise. I would like to be in his head, just imagining what he's thinking.
Was that conga line of greetings with the king like that video they did with how Obama meets black people? It's like he walks down the line, he sees a guy, like, hey, soul brother, give me some of this. Hey, how you doing? And then he gets up to this right-wing right guy and he doesn't even shake hands. Hello. And then he goes to the next guy, hey, what's up, man? Yeah. Give me a hug, bring it in. And then
yeah.
The
thing that
King puts on his white gloves to shake that motherfucker's hand too.
Yeah. Or maybe just a quick fist pump and move along. I want to ask you something too, because Jacob, you're from Denmark. You're in Canada now. You were just in Canada, by the way. I'd make nothing of two of the greatest spy minds in the world spending time in Canada. Don't worry about it, everybody. If you're from Canada, they were here for personal reasons. But today I watched Mark Carney. Well, he's skiing, and you were up in the Laurentians freezing your balls off.
I do my ski mountaineering training there. Believe it or not.
Okay. Well, I don't listen. I'm not running your show. I get it.
I'm going through snowboarding at age 64. So.
Oh my God! Try new things.
Black man snowboard. Bro, that's your new name, Black man snowboard.
I've seen at least two of us. So the reason I'm learning to snowboard is I suck so bad at regular downhill skiing, I learned to ski on the Kapun Glacier in Austria, if you can believe that, and Garmisch, and also the Army Ski Center at Garmisch-Partenkirchen. Now I'm like, hey, the snowboard, I can split the snowboard now, which gives me mountaineering skis up, and then I can freaking shred with all the youngsters on the way down.
Oh, that lingo. You got the lingo down, Malcolm. That's awesome.
Come on, Scotty. Let's some snow.
But I wanted to, yeah, sorry. I just wanted to ask Jacob, and this is for both of you guys. You've spent time with Jacob in Copenhagen. You know intimately that Denmark is now taking this seriously. But I watched Mark Carney. Well, we're going to find out. That's why I'm asking my man here. I watched Mark Carney stand with Mette Frederiksen today, and Mark Carney delivered a very stern rebuke. He also delivered a really comforting message to Denmark, and I know a lot of the EU countries are. He said, hey, listen, Denmark, Greenland, sovereign country, we're here for that. We will do everything in our power to make sure that it stays in Denmark and Greenland stays Greenland. But I juxtapose that by some of the rhetoric and obviously a plan that Malcolm has seen or is heard of, where there is going to be some kind of deep military intervention. Is Denmark taking this as seriously as Malcolm takes it now? Are they taking it as seriously as Canada is taking the threat to our sovereignty coming from Donald Trump? And if so, are there conversations about NATO, Article 4, Article 5? Because we're firmly in that fucking territory, Jacob.
Yeah.
I think we're in Article 4 territory already.
Yeah.
Go on,
I
Jacob.
will say, judging by what I've seen these last few days, finally they are taking it as seriously as they should. And finally they're saying NATO Article 5 applies to any threat against NATO territory. And finally they are saying that, because they should have said that a long time ago, because this has been evident all year, actually, that this is not going to go away unless you really put force in there, and unless you show that you're willing to use it and you try to deter these lunatics. So I get the sense that they see how serious it is, and I get the sense that they understand. And that's also actually what our prime minister said the other day, that if this goes through, NATO is dead.
Yeah.
Well, I
and they should have talked about that a long time ago.
I don't think NATO's dead. NATO just becomes the North Atlantic Treaty Organization minus America. It will go down to 31 countries.
Yeah.
Because you still need the collective defense. NATO is the biggest army in the world.
Yeah. And we need Ukraine in
America.
that collective defense organization.
I trade that bitch in a heartbeat at this point. Ukraine for the United States?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's a good trade.
Exactly. So
the black delegation trades the United States, and it takes Ukraine.
But that's really important to understand that why aren't the Europeans talking about this more, about the treaty, etc., etc.? It's because it is a treaty, and none of the Europeans want to be seen as breaking a treaty. Because when you're a democracy, you don't break treaties. And that's why this has been stringing along, has been a nuisance to Danes, to Canadians, to Europeans, I guess, because everyone could see how crazy stuff was going on. But we can't be seen as breaking treaties. And that's why we have to wait for Trump to break the treaty.
A treaty, by the way, has force of law to all signatories. That means the NATO treaty becomes an act of Congress. It is a law in the United States.
Yeah.
And so by breaking the NATO treaty, or it's the Washington Treaty, right? Which fucking created NATO, 1947. The United States would essentially be saying, we don't care about everything that's happened since World War II, that happened since Normandy. We don't care. We don't care about any of the values. We are now, and this is in my book, The Plot to Destroy Democracy, in which I wrote in 2016, was published in 2018, in which the United States was now adopting Alexander Dugin, Putin's philosopher, and his student disciple, Steve Bannon, the philosophy of the world becoming a tripolar world. America has the Western Hemisphere, Russia has Europe and Russia, China has Africa and Asia. And Trump came out and essentially said, that's the way it is. Steve fucking Miller, the man who I am most famous for saying on Real Time with Bill Maher, I named him Baby Goebbels. Steve Miller. I did. Bill Maher laughed so hard over that. I said, that's your joke now. You can have that, Baby Goebbels. But Stephen Miller is this crazy, screaming advocate. It's ours. If we want it, we'll take it. Right?
Yeah.
One of the things he said the other day that I thought, it's funny because everything that comes out of that guy's mouth is just, you can literally subtitle a Goebbels speech into it. Like the horse speech. You could
side by side.
Oh, they have? Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, that's incredible.
They put him in black and white next to Goebbels, and you couldn't tell the difference.
Someone needs to show him the picture of Goebbels and his family as soon as the war ended, because that might do something.
And he's got his own Magda Goebbels going on here.
Oh yeah, Katie Miller. What a waste of skin.
And she's the one.
She's the one that put that Greenland thing. She put the tweet says soon
with the American flag.
Yeah,
I got to tell you something. Last Saturday, it was very apparent that there was an internal fight going on between Stephen Miller and Marco Rubio. And by Monday, Rubio was coming out on top because for almost 2 days, Miller and her were saying Greenland. And Trump said Greenland on Air Force One. Then the next day, Rubio just flat out says Cuba's next. Mm-hmm. And Trump came out and said Cuba's next. And today, when Trump was talking about Greenland, we'll see in 20 days. That means he has scheduled a National Security Council meeting in 20 days. And then he said, we'll see in 2 months. And that that's March. That means that's when the military operation will go into effect because they need ice-free navigable waters. Not ice-free. It won't be ice-free till June. They need navigable waters. And I think they're looking at late March, early April, to where they could get amphibious warships up there. But bring all your fucking helicopters because
it'll work.
You can't. Your ships. Let me tell you something. You know what? I would also station you guys have freaking submarines, right? Station a submarine. But don't station it in Nook, right?
No, we don't have submarines. We don't have submarines.
You don't have a sub?
No.
I saw the one.
They abolished those a few years ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, go borrow one from Norway or somebody.
Yeah, they got subs. Canada's getting subs from South Korea soon. You can borrow one of those.
Dean, I know your idea is for us to all come with your camera crew and go around Denmark and Greenland and go meet the heavies. I think this is a good idea. I think it's time to remind Denmark that 1 fucking year ago, me and Jacob were on your TV over a week telling you this shit's serious. And it's like... When a black man spy comes up and tells you something, you should just believe him.
Especially when he goes to fucking Greenland to tell the story.
What reason do I have to fucking lie? Right?
Well, let me ask you. Can I ask you guys a couple questions? And I want to get to the taking a camera crew up there, and I want to put some action into this conversation. It's a dream to have both of you guys on my screen right now to be having these conversations. Because a lot of people need that affirmation of the information, right? Like, how are we explaining this to people where they can clearly understand the threat? How can we explain this to people with some teeth that these two gentlemen have been on the ground? They were boots on the ground. They were instrumental in making Denmark take this seriously from Jump Street. But what I'm really interested in is proximity right now, because Canada has been taking Trump seriously for a solid fucking year. Ever since he launched the 51st state bullshit, we kind of, locked arms and said, okay, let's put our ideologies aside. Let's elect a techno. Let's elect a guy who's actually never been in politics, who has the fucking stones and the resume to push back against Donald Trump. Well, Canada was mentioned in a Fox interview after he went down and picked up Maduro, which I believe was totally fucking staged. That's another conversation for another day. Yeah, but I was curious because he mentioned Canada in a Fox News interview. And now we're starting to see the rhetoric of Greenland pick up, right? Canada is one of the most, if not the most, resource-rich, undiscovered resource-rich countries in the fucking world. Canada is also, I don't know, how long is it across the Davies Strait from Pituffik to Baffin Island? What is that, 90 miles? 100 miles?
Yeah, it's very close.
Yeah, super fucking close. And you and I were chatting before in a quick phone call. That's where they go through Canadian airspace to be able to fly supplies, people, equipment into Pituffik.
All food and resupply comes from Canada. Yeah. It's part of the deal. So when those big ships come in to supplies Pituffik, that's Canadian ships with Canadian supplies.
So my question to both of you guys is, what's Canada's responsibility should this happen? Because we're staring down the barrel of your dreams come true, which is what happen? Should the United States indeed put boots on the ground in Greenland?
There's a precursor to that. which you need to think about, right? The aura, the run up to that. If we start seeing, and I said this on Danish TV, if somebody says they're jumping into Greenland, right, the Ready Brigade of the 82nd Airborne or the 101st Mountain Troops, or they start flying the Alaskan, National Guard to Schenectady, New York, and start meeting up with those ski planes, that's a precursor. Someone's going to tell their mom, someone's going to say, hey, Mom, we're drawing Arctic cold weather gear and live ammo. All right. Now Canada has a window to act. Right. And in my interpretation of it should be as simple as this. The Canadian president should go to the president of the United States, mano a mano, and say, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to call Canada as a nation to alert. And for the first time in our history, and the first time since the War of 1812, okay.
We burned that motherfucker down, by the way, just letting you know.
Canada is going to be on a war footing against the United States, and I will make history. And you think, you're going to start deploying your Vermont Air National Guard F-35s and all that stuff. The problem is half your country will not obey these orders.
Yeah.
Half your military will go into. Now, we are going to close all Canadian airspace to the United States, which means you want to fly to fucking Greenland. You're going to go halfway to Iceland, turn north, and then you have to turn northwest again, right? But we're going to notify Denmark of all of this, and France, and Britain. And I think the British would actually go neutral on this. But I think France would deploy fighters. I think that France is just going to... I believe Macron would become, if European Union were a nation, Macron, if he does something tough like what they were saying, what the German prime minister was saying to the Vals, he could become the leader. Because now you're talking America versus Europe, NATO. And NATO will survive. We'll just fucking fly down that flag. And it'll bolster European defense. But Canada has the way to make the story made for TV movie drama by saying, hey, we're going to deny all U.S. civil airliners into Canadian airspace, which means now everybody has to fly into the Atlantic, enormous costs, the drama of Canada turning off its airspace, its few aviation assets going there, offering Greenland surface-to-air missile batteries, threatening to expel all U.S. forces out of Canada from the space-based missile, the NORAD sites that you have in the north, and saying, we're nationalizing that, right? We can't trust you anymore. Let me tell you, this country would go into rebellion. But that's the precursor. Like I said, for Denmark, you had better get some shit up there so that it is a fucking fight. Okay, we've got 40. I think you bought 100
and a fucking
guys
statement.
there.
Yeah.
You bought guys there now. Now that was the Malcolm Nance, Jacob Karsbo School of Intelligence Subtlety. But Trump is being led to believe that shit's a single fucking dog sled team. All right, bitch. Why don't I'll tell you what. Don't deploy your F-35s. The Americans will turn that shit off. Right? Which, by the way, Dean, you keep saying why you need to buy the Gripen.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing, right? Like, I mean, if you read tea leaves and you look at signs, not only is Canada preparing for something, Canada is also preparing to walk away from that Lockheed Martin F-35 deal because we simply don't trust Donald Trump, and we don't trust that we're going to spend billions on equipment that can be bricked. They own the fucking software. It's like, and that's why I'm worried about fucking Denmark, right? Thank God. Like,
also produces some major components of that aircraft.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we're turning.
But we don't own it. We manufacture it. We don't own it. Pete Hoekstra made a point of that.
If you don't fucking come to work, it can't get manufactured. The F-35 assembly line will stop.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and here's
soft power.
Here's the exactly, and here's the catch, and this is why I like Mark Carney. He's got this stoic mentality to him, which is, I'm not going to fucking talk about it, I'm just going to go do it. Signed a safe EU deal last month with Sweden and the rest of Europe. and is getting ready to make an announcement. Might as well talk about it here. We announced it a little bit earlier, getting ready to make an announcement of a 12,000 jobs to manufacture the Saab Grip. And is it the JS-29, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah.
The JS-29 here in Canada across multiple sites with Sweden. And that is going to put a bullet in the F-35 deal, as we all know. We have the first tranche of the planes that are coming. They're really just going to be airframes. We don't even want the fucking software anymore. There is not an army that the United States has sold military equipment to today that I'm aware of that's got any confidence in any U.S. military equipment going into 2026 for that very reason. And I don't know anything about the JS-29, but I know that the JS-29 is a much better aircraft in the Arctic than the F-35, from what I understand.
Yeah, it also carries a bigger payload. And, we're not talking about we think you're not coming. We can't see you. You're the size of a bird at 100 kilometers. We're going to see you coming.
Yeah.
I mean, because your ground crews are going to tell us that you took off, right? There's a million other ways to collect intelligence about your activities. And this is what I said in my articles and Danish television, right? Any closed Nuuk airport at night. Now there's 3 Danish army helicopters stationed at that airport with armed guards, right? There's a watch there. The airport should always be closed at night. Foul that runway with fire trucks every night, right?
Exactly.
And say, so that Russian Spetsnaz can't come landing into Denmark, or the Chinese won't parachute in there. Don't be surprised if they go for that parachute option, right? The Ready Brigade or the Ready Company or Battalion at Fort Bragg. But so many guys will be calling their mom, we're going to go jump into Denmark or Greenland. You'll have 10 hours warning, right? Yeah. But you've got to take it serious enough to say, are we willing to fight for it, or are we just going to give it away? And right now, if we all go to meet your prime minister, because I want to meet your prime minister, I want to meet your minister of defense, I want to have coffee, have some drinks with Rasmus Jarlov, because he seems like a fun guy, right? The guy on the defense council. And I'd like to meet the king, and I'd like to ask some straight in your fucking face questions, right? To say, look, brother gave you a chance last year. Now you need to answer some questions for the public. Are you willing to fight for Denmark, or are you going to surrender right now? And if you say, we'll wait to see how it comes out, then, send that. I would mobilize the entire Marine regiment, all 1,500 of you, and send them to Greenland. Yeah. And, with heavy, and then say, we've, winter combat training center. That's what Greenland is for Denmark now. And invite the Norwegians and fight the British, right? Take all that Arctic training away from Norway and bring it all to Greenland, so there's always a shitload of guns there. And ask if anybody wants to preposition their ammunition.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's really what's going on these days, that the Danish government, of course, needs to take the lead and show the commitment. But I think the governments are talking more and more about this. And also, what do we do just in case, as you were saying, with the Canadians, what you can do is really just close the airspace and stuff like that to make this insane idea impossible. And to deter and to show, well, we're ready, and just don't even think about it.
This is also a good time to extend your spies, right? I mean, we're all allies. We're allies. But when I was in Greenland, I met a NATO officer from the Arctic Command. Another group of people we need to visit, right? We need to get rides on the helicopters, rides on the ships. We need to see all their capability. But this person, I won't say who the person was, this person said, we have to really watch what we say about the Americans in London and in NATO Northern Naval Command. We have to watch out, because the American there is reporting everything they do to the Pentagon, not as allies. She thinks that they actually have spies in Arctic Command and their liaison officers who are now running things for Defense Intelligence Agency. So time to extend your networks out to where, we have this saying in America, keep an honest man honest, right? Lock up your shit. Well, maybe it's time that that this is 1941 again. And then, you have to act like the Norwegian and British governments, right? You got to seduce a few American, congressmen and senators and make sure that there's, a few days or hours warnings.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You brought up something, just a quick aside, about how everybody's snitching on people that are insulting Donald Trump. The BBC put out an edict today, and I laughed my ass off talking about London. And I'm British Canadian, so I've got 2 passports, so it hurts me to say this. But the soft-handed, somewhat wussy approach of the British government and the British people and British industry to Donald Trump came to a denouement today when the BBC put out an edict saying, hey, if we talk about Maduro, if we talk about Venezuela, we cannot call it a kidnapping. Under no circumstances is anybody at the BBC allowed to call what happened to Maduro a kidnapping because...
What are they calling
it? I don't even know. I have no idea. Zero clue. But it was just the softest shit ever.
A law enforcement operation.
Yes, it was a law enforcement operation. Special law enforcement operation.
Yeah, did it really require 100 JDAM bombs? It just, actually, I'm really surprised at England because, this Special Operations Task Force arrived there 3 days ago. Apparently is going to try to seize this Venezuelan ship, ghost ship that has now reflagged to Russia, the Minerva or whatever its name is, or the Minutia, and that's out in the middle of the ocean. But I got to tell you something, until they offloaded the helicopters, I was very suspicious because you can't fly from Mildenhall to Nook, right?
No,
I don't
exactly.
care. It's 3,000 miles. You'd be refueling every 5 minutes, and it would be so obvious. But that England didn't come up and, say, hey, dudes, what the fuck are you doing? Right? Let's have some talk about this. Either England is part of, England may get to the point where they may have to choose whether they're part of European NATO or they're going to be an outlier because the North Atlantic part of the treaty organization will now mean what it was in World War II, from Halifax to the European continent. Minus America. So NATO is still onto its charter name, but people have to start making some hard fucking decisions. Because if you think you're going to sit this out and wait to see the Democrats take power in the 2026 election, they don't give a fuck about this. Today, Trump was talking about, maybe we won't cancel the elections, but they may have to be canceled.
Yeah, did you see that?
Bros, we will go into civil war.
Oh, yeah.
If that happens here.
I've said that so many times to people. All of my American friends and my very dear friend Steve Schmidt was the guy who actually put this on my plate. He's like, you take away our right to vote, that's it. That's it. That's the only thing Americans will go to war over is their freedom to decide who leads us. The freedom to be able to cast a fucking vote. And then he imparted upon me something that I thought was, I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. He goes, Republicans aren't the only fucking gun owners, dude.
Well, I mean, all you got to do is come to my house. I have a battalion's worth. I'm a collector, but he's right. These people are, the guys, look, I can run. I'm 64 years old. I can hit 5 kilometers in my combat boots today, right now, this very minute, nonstop. These guys can't even get out of their chairs. They go wheezing up and down steps. I'm going to start the Civil War. It's just like, I don't even have to aim center of mass for you. You are the center of mass. But all this crazy stuff aside, because I'm going to tell you what I said on Danish TV. This is the stupidest fucking thing I have ever had to analyze in my career. Right? Stupidest.
It is.
Dumbest. And the point is, however, we had better be ready. Because Trump now believes he's not leaving office. Because heard what he said. There's another little intelligence indicator where he said the ballroom is where he's going to do the next inauguration.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's not planning on going fucking anywhere, dude. It's not just in the tea leaves, dude.
An unambiguous intelligence indicator.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
he ain't going anywhere.
The sad part about it, all these people that believe that the democratic process will just play out. And I'm saying to them, but why do you think so? Why do you think someone who already tried to make a coup will just, relinquish power? It's
and on top of that, you like he relinquished power when he didn't have the power and tried to fucking start an insurrection 5 years ago today where people fucking died.
Exactly.
Now he has every level of every branch of government. He's surrounded himself with every fucking incel, MAGA, village idiot. He's got morons like Pete Hegseth being the Secretary of Defense. I mean, it's just
be honest, guys.
He's unabridged at point.
Trump represents the uneducated mass of white men. That's it. And their wives. That's it. And they are exercising their belief that they own America. And that none of you are entitled to the processes. I wrote this in that book, Plot to Destroy Democracy. America will become a constitutional autocracy.
Yeah, the white patriarchy truly believes it's manifest destiny that they're at the fucking front of the line and everybody else takes the scraps. That is this group.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, one thing. I have to leave now because I'm running out of battery. Because I've been skiing all day and freezing my ass off. But I'm at Kicking Horse, British Columbia, and I love it. So, yeah.
Welcome
and
to Canada.
Guys, we need to work out when we get to Greenland and Copenhagen and do all this stuff. And for all the audience, we're going to do it. And we'll start planning now.
All right. Well, we've gone over our time anyway. Listen, some homework before we start. Go up into that top left corner, press that button that's scrolling Black Man Sky, Dean Blundell. If you touch that, all of our subscription boxes come from the bottom. Please subscribe to all of these people on here. If you follow me, follow these guys. And so that we can all stay in touch, because I'm sure if we have to do an emergency show, I think, Jacob, you and I did a follow-up last September. I think we're going to be doing these all the time now. I think they're serious as a heart attack.
Yeah,
so we've got 2,000 viewers here. Thank you for coming tonight. This recording will be out there on our Substack, so please go back, review it. There will be a test. And... and we'll get back to you. So thanks all of you for coming. Dean Blundell, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Karsbo, thank you for interrupting your vacation. And we'll see you all in Copenhagen, right?
You got it.
Perfect, man. See you.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.